Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. Today is the first really nice warm day we're having, so I thought I'd spend it in the greenhouse and take a look at this is kind of the next in a series that I've been doing of what you can do with just standard nursery garden junipers that you find everywhere. This one I picked up last year and I did a thinning out, but I left it in the pot. Actually, I up-potted it a little bit. I just slipped it out, slipped it in here, and filled it in with bonsai soil. So when I take this out, it's mostly going to be in nursery soil. So I thought this would be a good time of year. It's just starting to wake up. I've had it in the greenhouse for just a couple of days. It's been outside, and I'm seeing little green tips. So I'm assuming this hasn't started any kind of root growth yet, so I think it's a good time to repot it. So let's get it out of this nursery pot and take a look at it. I'm just pressing the sides to loosen it up a little. I think it's pretty loose in here. It's actually pretty loose. I'm not sure what I'm going to find in terms of roots. But I hope I find something good and workable. There is a tiny bit of root growth. I'm seeing some white tips, but not very white. Just starting to wake up. So let's comb this out and really get a good look at those roots. I'm using my Bobcat Bonsai combination chopstick and root hook, which is a really excellent tool. There's a lot of pine bark in here. Well, I think this is the pot I got it in because I'm only seeing bonsai soil on the top. And the roots did go right down to the bottom, but they weren't circling. I'm being careful not to damage any roots. And I'll speed this up a bit just in the interest of time, and then we'll come back and take a look at the roots very closely. This mass of roots at the top, if they don't have much attached to them, when all is said and done, I may just, well, I'm definitely going to trim them back and just try to use the roots that are lower down. And much of the soil has just fallen away on this. And as you can see, hopefully, this tree was being fed mostly by the roots down low. That scares me a little because I'm going to have to be cutting away many of these. There are some nice feeder roots up top. So we'll see how it develops over the season, but I've got to get it into a bonsai pot. This is to prove a point. Bonsai doesn't have to be expensive. Nursery stock is a great way to get started in the hobby. There's tons of these available. I started watching a new channel, ASMR Bonsai. If you haven't found it yet, check it out. The last episode I watched, she was in a beautiful nursery. I'm sorry I don't know her name, but she was in a very nice nursery that had a lot of garden juniper. And I'm not sure what part of the world she lives in either, but her, I did see some palm trees, so maybe it's Florida, maybe it's California. I just don't know yet. But check her out. She's just getting started on her channel, and I'd love to see her get some more subscribers. A lot of these are not even attached, the ones from on top. Now, I don't know if they were eaten away by squirrels or rabbits, or if they just broke away. But we'll get this washed up and we'll come back. I'll clean up all this mess. We'll come back and take a close look at these roots. Well, this is quite a mess. As you can see, the roots are quite a tangle. And I think the smartest thing to do is to cut the long roots away, because I know I'm not going to be using those. Let me just see if I can comb them out a little bit. And let me just take the long ones right off. For that, I'm using a very old and very dull, just regular old Chinese scissors that I picked up on Canal Street when I was working in the city. And let's see if we can sort this mess out. But just in terms of observation, the root plane is not really that low. There is an extension of the trunk, which I'm going to assume is a taproot, which I will try and isolate and just cut off, I don't know, the last third of it. For that, I'm just going to use a garden pruners. I find these operations quite scary, but then I watch people like Nigel Saunders go at their root system and get great results. So I'm not taking off much. And it doesn't look like any of these roots were coming to life. But that helped me a little bit. And let me spread these out. Here's a root that started, I thought it was broken off here and I tried to pull it out, but it appears to be coming from way down here, and it has some nicer roots coming from it. So let's see if I can find a good place to cut that. Well, certainly the part that's going up is of no use to me. I'm going to cut it off just before it starts to go straight up. It's still part of the roots. I'm going to take these little stragglers off the top too, the little tiny ones. Maybe if I'm on the other side, it would be easier to see. Yeah. See, here's a root that is a serious root, but I think it's just a little too high up. I like this little needle for getting into these tight spots. I'm probably going to be planting it at a similar angle to how it was, so maybe these roots aren't really helpful to me. That was a big decision for me, because these are coming to life a little bit, but what can you do? stub of one that had broken away. Okay, so let's look at the bottom now. Can I go any further with this taproot? Probably. All right, now I can spread them out. I'm going to shorten these even further. And what I think I'll do with these little ones is see how it fits in the pot first and then trim them off afterwards. I can just pick them off. A little bit of reverse taper here. There must have been a lot of branches coming from this spot. Let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. For that, I want to get my knob cutters. I've got a root coming straight down here, but it does go off to the side. This root doesn't have much happening with it, so I'm just going to take it off. And I have a mica tray that I'm going to put this in, a mica pot. That's about the right size, I think. This root goes up, but I can redirect it. As is this one. It has a piece that goes down. Let me take that off. And I will keep this in the greenhouse for a while, just till I'm sure it's okay. These are kind of thick. But they had a lot of life to them, so let me see if I can tuck them down into the soil. All right, let me get a pot prepared, and we'll be right back. So we'll get a base layer of soil into the pot. I put the drainage screens in with a little wire to hold them in place. And a pretty hefty base layer. I'm going to be planting the tree over to one side and plant it on an angle. So let's see. I can get a little bit more of the base layer in there. And I'm running low on bonsai soil. So I'm going to have to stock up, and I bet I'm going to be finding a lot of places out of stock. So let's position this in the pot. And I'm using this as the front of the pot because it only has one little place where the squirrels ate it instead of this entire corner. And may have to trim the roots just a little bit more. Not much. But I don't want them hitting the edges of the pot. That seems about right. Cheating it over to this one side. And I want to make sure the roots are starting to grow in a radial pattern. I'm going to start filling it in and raising it up just a little bit in the pot because it's hitting on that back end. Now that branch may get some adjustments once it starts to grow. I think I want to raise it up a little bit, just mound it up right here. This is when I start to wish I had an apprentice. I'm going to have to get something to hold this in place while I fill it up the rest of the way. I don't think that lean is quite enough. Yeah. Let me try this again. Three hands would be great. 4 would be even better. So ideally I want this coming this way a bit, forward a bit, and leaning back. So that's essentially the positioning I want, but this is definitely not going to stay without some help. All right, let me get some stones and I'll finally position it. Okay, so here's the final placement. The stones are going to have to do their job. This will be the front. I'll have a semi-cascade branch going this way, and I'll probably be taking this part off of this and cleaning this up once it starts to grow. So let me find a nice protected place in the greenhouse, and I'll keep it in here for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then get it outside and see if it'll survive the summer. So that's it for today. Thanks for keeping me company in my backyard.